what if I told you that retreating isn't failing? Like, sometimes stepping back is actually the ultimate strategic power move to protect your energy and win the long game.
Yeah, I mean, that requires completely dismantling how most of us have been conditioned to handle adversity, which makes it one of the most difficult, but honestly most vital skills to master.
Right, totally. Well, welcome to this deep dive into the mind key to the I Ching. We are diving into a concept today that frankly challenges everything we think we know about perseverance. But real quick, before we get into the mechanics of all this, I want to let you know that you can download our companion app, YOWAYOW, right now on the Apple App Store.
Definitely want to grab that.
Yeah, and if you prefer having this wisdom, like physically on your bookshelf,
Yeah.
the Mind Key to the I Ching book is officially available on Amazon Books. So you'll definitely want to check those out as we explore these frameworks with you today.
For sure. So today's focus is on hexagram 33, which is known as done or retreat.
Yeah.
But we need to be very clear right from the outset here. This is not about surrender.
Which is the immediate association we all make, right? Like, for anyone listening, just think about a time you stayed in a job or maybe a project or a relationship way past its expiration date purely because walking away felt like losing.
Oh, absolutely.
We have all been there. So our mission today is to take this ancient philosophy and apply it to our, highly pressurized modern lives. How do you objectively know when an industry or a relationship is just a dead end? And more importantly, how do you execute a clean, dignified exit without the guilt and without that agonizing period of just dragging your feet?
Well, to understand the mechanics of a successful retreat, we first have to visualize the structure of hexagram 33. The I Ching operates through these visual metaphors built from trigrams, which are symbols made of 3 lines. So in done, we have the trigram for heaven, known as Qian, sitting on top. And right beneath it, we have the trigram for mountain, known as Zhen.
Heaven over mountain.
Okay.
When I picture that, it feels incredibly stark. Like the mountain is massive, but the sky above it is just infinite.
Exactly, and that sense of scale is exactly the point. Heaven represents the macro environment. It is overwhelming, it's unstoppable, and it's entirely indifferent to you.
Right.
Think of shifting economic tides, or the onset of a global pandemic, or massive technological disruptions like AI. It's a force so huge you cannot negotiate with it, and you certainly can't push back against it.
So it's like you can't ask a hurricane to change its path just because you worked really hard on building your house.
Precisely. You just can't.
Yeah.
Now contrast that with the mountain down below. The mountain is grounded. It is still. But its most defining characteristic is that it knows its boundaries.
It knows its limits.
Right. A mountain does not attempt to grow continuously until it pierces the sky.
Right.
It reaches its peak, it accepts its absolute limits, and it stands firm in its reality. When heaven is pressing down from above, the mountain doesn't try to fight the sky. It just holds its ground and refuses to overextend.
Wow, yeah. But, before we get into the exact stages of how to actually retreat, I feel like we need to address the psychological elephant in the room here.
Oh, the hustle culture.
Yes. This concept of stopping, of accepting limits, it goes against our entire cultural programming. We are so deeply entrenched in hustle culture. The messaging is everywhere. It's like never give up, sleep when you're dead, winners never quit. We constantly romanticize pushing through adversity at all costs, often to our own detriment.
Yeah, and we romanticize it because it's just simpler than critical thinking. To truly utilize the wisdom of done, we have to kind of deprogram that hustle mindset and embrace a totally different strategic framework.
Which is what, exactly?
Well, the fundamental shift is recognizing that a strategic retreat is actually a form of forward momentum. You are refusing to smash an egg against a rock.
Right, you're conserving the egg to make breakfast tomorrow.
Exactly.
Which actually brings up something I really want to challenge here. In Western psychology and behavioral economics, we talk constantly about the sunk cost fallacy, right?
Right, very common concept.
Yeah, we pour years of our lives or thousands of dollars into a startup or a relationship, and we just refuse to walk away because we don't want to lose that investment. So we keep bleeding resources. But on the flip side of that, we're also told that success is just past the point where most people give up. So how do we practically tell the difference between a temporary dip that requires us to persevere and a structural heaven over mountain collapse where we just need to run?
That right there is the ultimate strategic dilemma. And the I Ching offers a specific diagnostic tool for this, which is reading the wind. It's not about ignoring your intuition or acting out of cowardice. It's an objective assessment of external forces.
Okay, so how do you distinguish the forces?
Well, a temporary dip feels like a strong headwind. It makes progress difficult. You have to lean into it, and it definitely costs more energy. But a structural collapse, that alters the landscape entirely. The funding dries up across the whole sector, the core technology becomes completely obsolete, or, the foundational trust in a relationship is just permanently shattered.
So it's the difference between a hard day and a broken paradigm.
Yes, when the paradigm breaks, it is no longer about your individual willpower. If you read the environment and you see a Category 5 hurricane making landfall, using your body to block the wind is not perseverance, it's ego.
Oof, it's ego.
Yeah. The strategic move is to find a cave, shelter your resources, and let the unstoppable force pass over you.
But I think we really need to weave in the ultimate purpose of this, because sitting in a cave feels kind of passive, like we aren't just hiding forever, right?
Not at all. And this is the secret architecture of the I Ching. You are retreating to preserve your energy for the next phase. If we look ahead in the philosophical sequence, hexagram 33 eventually gives way to hexagram 34, which is Da Zhuang, or great vigor, and that is a massive, powerful surge forward.
Okay, so there's a payoff.
A huge payoff, but you cannot experience great vigor if you died on the previous mountain. You have to rest and conserve your capital now so you have the strength to roar later.
Man, that reframes the entire concept. You retreat so you have the capacity to roar later. I love that. But if the theory is as logical as just find a cave and save your energy, why is retreating in real life so incredibly agonizing? Like, why does it hurt so much?
Because the theory is clean, but human psychology is incredibly messy, and the structure of the hexagram maps this internal conflict beautifully. The bottom half of the mountain represents our internal subjective world. It's dense, it's earthy, and it's prone to a lot of emotional friction. The ancient texts outline these distinct psychological stages of a messy, poorly timed retreat.
Okay, let's explore the first of those stages, which is described as being the tail of the retreat. And an everyday scenario for this is like missing the last train out of town, and instead of just accepting that you missed it, you were sprinting down the tracks, desperately chasing the caboose.
Right, terrible idea.
Yeah, or in a modern financial context, think about the crypto markets. You're the last investor stubbornly holding on to a failing asset, desperately hoping it bounces back, while all the smart money quietly cashed out weeks ago.
Structurally, this represents energy at the very bottom of the situation. The foundation is weak, it's slow, and it completely lacks the momentum to leap forward. And the advice the I Ching gives for this scenario is highly counterintuitive. If you realize you are lagging behind and exposed to systemic danger, you must stop moving.
I have to push back on that, though, because freezing goes against every evolutionary survival instinct we have.
Yeah.
Like, if you realize you are exposed and trailing behind the pack, your amygdala is literally screaming at you to sprint, to panic, to do something to catch up. How do you justify overriding that instinct?
You override it by understanding the logic of predators, whether literal or economic. If you are the tail of a fleeing herd, you are already the most vulnerable target, thrashing around, panicking, making wild, highly leveraged investments to recoup your losses.
Or sending 15 desperate text messages to an ex who just dumped you.
Yes, exactly. That only amplifies your exposure. It draws the danger directly to you. You missed the optimal window to exit gracefully. The most strategic thing you can do now is drop to the ground, keep quiet, stop bleeding resources, and let the immediate danger wash over you.
That takes immense discipline. Yeah. Just freeze and stop digging the hole.
Exactly.
Which I guess leads us to the next psychological trap on this mountain. The imagery used here is incredibly vivid. It describes being bound by a yellow cowhide that cannot be untied.
Yeah, cowhide is notoriously tough. And as it dries, it shrinks and hardens, wrapping whatever it holds in this absolute vice grip. It is an ancient metaphor for something deeply intractable.
This sounds exactly like the paralysis of sentimentality. It's holding on to a toxic partnership or maybe a dying family business purely out of nostalgia and the emotional weight of the years you've invested. You logically know the macro environment has crushed it. You know you need to retreat, but you are bound by that cowhide of emotional attachment. You just can't bring yourself to untie it.
Because the energy in this state lacks the sharp decisiveness required to swing the axe. You are just too close to it. You are compromised by your own history with the project or the person. So, the I Ching provides a brilliantly pragmatic workaround for when you recognize that your own emotions cannot be trusted to execute the retreat.
Which means the only real workaround is to remove yourself from the execution entirely. Like, if sentimentality is a biological and emotional bind, you have to bring in an emotionless third party. You basically outsource the exit.
Exactly. You hire a liquidator to wind down the company. You let a mediator or a lawyer handle the final negotiations of a partnership dispute. You bring in someone who has zero emotional connection to the cowhide.
Right. They don't care about the history.
No, they aren't blinded by nostalgia at all. They just have the scissors. You let them cut the ties so you don't drown in your own stubbornness.
That is such a powerful strategy for bypassing our own psychological flaws. But what happens when the ties are officially cut, yet you physically cannot leave yet? That brings us to a stage described as a sick or annoyed retreat.
This one is painful.
Oh, it really is. Picture this, right? You've finally summoned the courage to hand in your resignation at a terribly toxic job. The hard part is over. But company policy dictates you have to spend the next 3 weeks doing tedious handover paperwork, training your replacement, and sitting through incredibly awkward HR exit interviews. You are physically leaving, but mentally you are trapped in a purgatory of chores.
The ancient translation literally refers to being bound by subordinates or administrative friction. It feels like an illness, like a fever of annoyance, because of the intense cognitive dissonance. Your mind and your spirit have already vacated the premises, but your physical reality is still holding you hostage.
The cognitive dissonance is exactly it, because at that point, the ego's instinct is to just flip the desk and storm out. You want to burn the bridge because enduring the friction feels beneath you now that you've already made the decision to leave.
And that is exactly where people sabotage their entire retreat. The advice here is pure, cold pragmatism. You must suppress your temper. You cannot walk away lightly until the heavy baggage is properly unpacked.
So you have to play the game.
You do. If you let your annoyance drive you to storm out, those loose administrative ends, those burned bridges, those unsigned documents, they will follow you into your next chapter. They will trip you up months later. The discipline required here is to patiently settle the small, mundane details. Smile through the exit interview. Document the handover. You have to endure the annoyance in order to earn the clean break.
You endure the annoyance to earn the clean break. That perfectly encapsulates the shift from the messy emotional entanglement of the mountain up into the higher trigram of heaven, because heaven represents that clear, decisive, objective reality. So what does a masterful exit actually look like when we reach that higher level of execution?
Well, when you move into the upper stages, you are operating with strong, objective energy. The first phase of this mastery is about restraining desire.
Restraining desire. Okay, the scenario that instantly comes to mind is leaving a casino while you are still up. Like you haven't hit the massive jackpot, but you're not in the red. Or, in a business context, walking away from a deal that technically still have a little bit of profit left on the table because you can see the regulatory landscape shifting or the red flags just multiplying in the background.
That requires being ruthlessly objective about the macro environment. And what's fascinating here is that the true test of a masterful retreat isn't running away from a burning building. Literally anyone can do that. The true test is the ability to walk away from something you actually like, or something that is still offering you a reward.
That is significantly harder because it feels like you're leaving money on the table. Like your peers might even think you're crazy for leaving a comfortable situation.
Oh, they will, because they are only looking at the micro-level profit. You are looking at the macro-level wind. You see the environment turning sour, and you choose to restrain your immediate desire for that last 10% of profit in order to protect your entire foundational capital. You leave the party while the music is still playing instead of waiting until the authorities shut it down.
Which sets up the next stage brilliantly, the graceful exit. This makes me think of a legendary television show that chooses to end perfectly on its own terms.
Where?
The creators write an amazing finale, they wrap up all the story arcs, and they walk away into television history at the peak of their cultural relevance.
Instead of fading into obscurity.
Right. Rather than doing what so many networks do, which is drag a show on for 5 more terrible seasons until the ratings just collapse and everyone resents it.
That is the perfect embodiment of yielding the stage. It is a peak achievement because you are not being forced out by failure or cancellation or bankruptcy. You recognize that you have achieved the maximum potential of the current cycle. And instead of clinging to the spotlight until the audience or the market turns on you, you voluntarily hand it over.
And by doing that, there is absolutely zero resentment. You preserve your reputation, your legacy, and your dignity flawlessly, because people only remember you at your absolute best.
Exactly. And because you handled the exit so gracefully, it allows you to achieve the ultimate ideal, which the ancient text calls the fat, or abundant retreat.
I love this concept. The abundant retreat is the absolute dream scenario. It's handing over the keys to the business you successfully sold, turning off your phone, and taking a month-long sabbatical. You have no lingering emails, no guilt, no loose ends to tie up, and a full bank account. It is absolute, unadulterated freedom.
It is the ideal because fat in this context means an abundance of both resources and peace of mind. And it's crucial to understand why you have that peace of mind.
Right? It doesn't just happen.
No, it's the cumulative reward for doing the hard work in all the earlier stages. You outsourced the emotional baggage. You didn't storm out and leave an administrative mess. You restrained your desire and left before the market crashed. Because you executed the retreat flawlessly, you now have the capital and the psychological space to truly detach. But there is a massive trap hidden in this final victory.
I have a feeling this trap has to do with how high achievers handle empty space. What is it?
When you finish a massive chapter of your life and you achieve this abundant retreat, you must not immediately jump into a new project.
Which is exactly what every high performer does. Idleness feels like a kind of death to people who are used to hustling. We want to instantly pivot to the next startup, the next relationship, or the next obsession just to fill the void.
And if you do that, you negate the entire purpose of the retreat. You never actually stepped back. You merely transferred your stress to a new vehicle. The wisdom of the I Ching dictates that you must give yourself the physical and mental space to actually experience the emptiness. You have to let the mountain be still. The void is not a lack of productivity. The void is the mechanism of restoration.
It's the prerequisite for great vigor. Like if you immediately fill the void, you are entering the next battle with depleted energy.
Precisely. You must allow the slate to be wiped completely clean.
Wow. So to synthesize this entire journey for you listening, retreat is an incredibly sophisticated art form. It is the exact opposite of giving up. We transition from the messy, emotionally stubborn attachments of the mountain where we freeze when we are trailing, or we hire a mediator to cut the cowhide of our sentimentality, or we endure the agonizing chores of a transition up into the decisive, graceful freedom of heaven. Walking away cleanly while restraining our greed is how we preserve our capital, our legacy, and our sanity.
And again, conserving all of that energy has a singular purpose. By protecting your resources and enforcing a period of true stillness, you are building an impenetrable foundation for whatever comes next. You are ensuring that when the wind shifts in your favor again, you have the profound strength required to surge forward.
You rest so you can roar. I want to leave you with a thought to chew on today. Take a hard, objective look at your life, your career, or your relationships right now. Is there an area where you are mistaking stubbornness for perseverance? Are you holding on to something simply because of the sunk cost of the years you've already invested? What if the absolute bravest, most strategic, and most powerful thing you could do tomorrow is simply walk away?
Find your mountain. Read the wind.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the mind key of the I Ching. Keep questioning the defaults, keep protecting your energy, and we will catch you on the next one.